Welcome, fellow seekers of challenge and triumph, to the SufferSooner podcast. Join us on a journey where ordinary souls embark on extraordinary endeavors. From the relentless grind of gravel to the punishing gauntlet that is triathlon, we've tasted our fair share of suffering. So fellow endurance warriors, let's lace up our shoes, strap on our goggles, and dive headfirst into the challenge, knowing that with every step, stroke, and pedal forward, we grow stronger together. All right, guys, welcome to episode 34. We're back.
34 already, man. It's
I know,
flying
dude.
by.
It's
Isn't that crazy?
It's getting crazy.
I think we started what, at the beginning of the year, roughly, somewhere in there, maybe just a couple weeks into the year. So,
Yeah.
I mean, 34 weeks.
We have to start thinking of what we're going to do for the year episode.
I know.
That'll be a
The
good one.
episode number 52 is going to be a freaking crazy bash. It's going to be fun. So,
I don't have too much news this week. If you're a gravel fan or a triathlon fan, there is some great races coming up. The T100 series is kicking off. The gravel Schwamigan is this weekend. We're only 10 days away from Ironman World Championships for the women in Nice, which is an amazing course. It's like 6K of elevation, and you go through all the really nice parts of Nice and stuff. It looks beautiful. It definitely would be on one of my bucket list rides for sure.
There's so much great riding in the United States, but man, how much fun would it be to get over there? Got to find a way over to Europe. So.
Exactly. That's why. So if you're interested in sponsoring us to go to Europe, and
be happy to do a podcast,
we'd happy to talk all about how awesome it is for sure.
We could be like all the big influencers out there and just sell our souls to have somebody pay for our stuff. So it's this episode is brought to you by we're not there yet. So
Ketone IQ, just kidding.
That's for the algorithms. It's the algorithms.
Exactly. So it's, like I say, we're Danny says, we're not sponsored by anybody. We do this for fun. So please, speaking of that, if you are listening to this and you like this, please like this, favorite it, subscribe, get some of your friends to subscribe if you think they would like it. Just interact with it, share it, email us questions, comments, concerns. Is my face too red, or is my goatee too long? Anything.
It'd be nice if somebody in the audience out there knows how to do production, because then we could get some instead of this third-rate production we got going on now.
Exactly, we get professional. Yeah,
be all fancy like.
So, yeah. So. But if you are enjoying this, for sure, we're not getting paid to do this. We're doing this for fun. So definitely share it. We would like to get, some sort of monetization that would work for us, and then, pay for some cool stuff. Just being able to do cool stuff, not really like, I don't want Specialized to sponsor me, so I have to ride a Specialized or something like that. Like, I probably wouldn't do something like that, but Danny would though. Danny loves Specialized.
Well, I mean, it's the inauguration into the S-Word.
He hearts it.
Yeah. Right? Oh gosh. All right. So what else we got going on in this episode?
But other than that, so. We have Gravel Clinic this weekend. So if you are in the Kansas City metro area, please come out to Camden Point, Missouri, and we're going to have a gravel clinic. We're going to talk about things that you should carry, so like spares or, toolkit, all that kind of stuff, what you should have in your, bag. And then we're going to talk about, speaking of bags, we're going to talk about bags, like what kind of bags do we like, top two bag, frame bag, bar bag, the little feeder bags on the handlebars, just kind of like what, or do you just carry everything in a pack, or, like what are your pros and cons of that kind of stuff? And then we'll do some basic bike handling stuff, and then we'll talk, and then we'll go and ride bikes. I think this week we have I just posted this too. We have a 20-mile course and a 40-mile course. Okay. So a little bit longer than last week, just by, or last 2 weeks ago, the last time we had. So a little bit longer, so a little bit more fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely come
Again,
on out.
we had a great turnout a couple weeks ago, and look forward to hopefully some folks return and maybe some new faces. And yeah, it's a great time. I mean, perfect time of the year for it too. The weather is absolutely beautiful out there,
Oh,
and
it's amazing. The
great
leaves are
riding.
starting to turn.
Yeah,
They're starting to fall out of the sky.
yeah,
It's going to be fall soon. The corn is changing.
yeah. Right. Yeah. For those of you that don't live in the Midwest, that's a good indicator that the seasons are passing as the corn changes. So,
Yeah.
but
It's went from all green to now it's kind of brown, ready to be harvested.
yeah.
And the combines are coming through, so it's cool. It's great.
Yeah, yeah, good stuff. So, one of the things about the gravel clinic and the group rides we've been doing is some of the folks have been showing up. I think it goes really well into the topic today. Is we're seeing a few folks that are coming back from either very mild injuries or in some cases very serious injuries. And so, it's a really good episode to talk about. Kind of what is the process for that. And we've been talking with some of the folks on the rides about our viewpoint. So thought, hey, this is a good chance for us to share it here to the broader audience, and maybe get some information out there for people that just don't know. Hey, I've been injured. I haven't been able to do my rides or runs or whatever. So what do I do next? And so maybe you can get us kicked off with that.
Yeah, so well, and this times perfectly with me. I decided, on Monday that I would, do some maintenance on my truck. And as I'm getting older, I guess I need to warm up for this kind of stuff, and so I went ahead and just pulled my back.
Nice.
So
Nice.
I was basically injured for like 3 days, 4 days. I was first day I was laying on the couch with the heating pad, just writhing in pain, and then after that, like Wednesday night, I could walk around, and then yesterday I had to do a first aid class, and I was in the pool because I'm doing some swimming first aid stuff.
Yeah.
And the back felt okay, but then when I got out of the pool, it was like, ooh, hey, it's a little tender still. So, I figured we might as well talk about this stuff. And the first thing that I always ask, myself and my athletes is like, are you hurt or are you injured, right?
Yeah.
So what's the difference? Like hurt, like, oh, I hurt my back. Yes.
Yeah.
It's not something I felt like I needed to go see a doctor about. And we'll get to the, when you actually go to the doctor, or when you go to a physio or whatever. I always feel like if it's something you're like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have done that, and now I'm a little sore and it hurts a little, and it's kind of like my own stupidness, and it goes away in a few days or a couple of hours, then then I'm usually hurt. But when you're injured, you're actually injuring yourself. That doesn't go away in a couple of days. That's chronic. It's there. That's when you need to be like, all right, I can't train until this is solved.
Right.
So,
well, I don't know. I had before getting into all the endurance sports, I had a life coaching youth sports, youth baseball, and at a fairly competitive level. And we used to ask the same question because in baseball, you get hit by a pitch, you get a ground ball that pops up and hits you in the face. You see an outfielder run for a ball and maybe turn and tweak an ankle or a knee or something like that. And so this question gets asked a lot in other sports. And so I think it's natural, on the endurance side, it's obviously a non-contact sport. So you see a lot less of these things. And so the line between hurt and injured can be really tough to see in the endurance side, because in an impact sport or, where you're doing a lot of directional running, it's real easy to say, hey, I felt a pop in the knee. That's usually not a good situation, right? So that usually answers the question pretty quick. But on the endurance side, I mean, you can be out running and you might feel a little tweak in the hamstring, or you might feel something in the calf, and it's like, oh no, where am I going to go next with that? Like, is that really an injury, or is it just a little sore because to your point, like, hey, I just didn't get enough warm up or something like that. So I think it's everybody's got their own pain tolerances too, and so that's a real good indicator. I mean, it seems so simple, but it's like, what's the level of pain? Because if it's a sharp, like stabbing pain, probably not a good situation to be in. You probably don't want to stay on that and keep pushing through your workout. If it's just gosh, the muscle I just feel it's almost like fatigue, but on steroids. It just hurts a little bit more than normal. well, maybe you're just a little overtrained right now. Maybe it's a good indication you should back off of your intensity and see if it gets better, or something like that. But I do think that, that's within a workout. But when you're in a situation like you were just talking about, Travis, where, outside of your workout, something, you hurt something and now it's impacting your ability to work out. I think that the best thing you can do is take a couple of days off. Your fitness world is not going to come crashing down because you take a couple of days off. If you've been consistent otherwise, if you just take a couple of days off and give it a chance to see if it heals up on its own, that's usually a pretty good way to tell if you're hurt or if you're injured. Unless you're out here making a bunch of money off of it, a couple of days ain't going to hurt you much. So.
Yeah, and I always think too, this like if you get injured like that, then you were probably on the knife edge of getting like, I say I was like, oh, it was me working on my truck, but it could easily have happened out riding my bike or something like that, where I tweak something else. So it's like you're almost on that knife edge before injury.
Yeah.
So like maybe, and it's kind of like, I always look at it as like my body's telling me like, hey, you need to chill out. Yeah.
Well, think about this too, Travis. You were, what was it, last weekend? You were out on the TT bike for 4 or 5 hours. When was the last 5-hour ride you did on your TT bike?
Right.
It's one of those things. It's like, well, you're, and I know you and how you ride, your back will have a tendency to be the first thing to tell you if you've been riding too much or something like that. And so the TT position does put a little extra pressure on the lower back because of the position you're in. And there's a very good chance that when you went out and worked on your truck, it was like you said, it's telling you, you kind of, you're an old man. You ain't as young as you used to be.
Yep. It's time for you to settle down there, buddy. And then
that's right.
And the thing is your body will put you in your place before, before your mind will. So, absolutely. So definitely like, and the thing that some people do is like, they're like, well, I need to work through this because I got these key, key events coming and I have these key workouts that I need to get in. And it's like, nothing is worth injuring yourself, re-injuring yourself, or making your injury even worse.
Right.
So the best thing you can do is just stop everything and, recover from it. So.
Yeah, I think that's the best advice. We've been through our share of pain, and I think we've been, knock on wood, we've been pretty fortunate to avoid any significant injury. And I think that's because we do a pretty good job of managing our training load. And then we try to avoid situations outside of training that would cause us injury, and like you said, you work on your truck, that could just happen. If I move furniture around in the house, I could injure myself. But I think the main thing here is just use good common sense and don't overdo it. Because again, a couple of days here and there is not going to kill your fitness as long as you're consistent. Otherwise, I think that's the key.
Yeah, and usually, like when you take a break from being on that knife edge of injury, like and then force yourself to take a couple of days, like you can have that super compensation, and you come back a little bit stronger. Then it's happened to me a couple of times where I just kind of push into that little minor injury or my minor hurt myself mode, and then I tell myself, all right, well, I'm going to take a couple of days off, and then it's just kind of like what was needed, and I come back even stronger. So don't be afraid to take time off, especially if you're hurt or injured. Like you just need to do what you need to do to have longevity in the sport.
So if you do find yourself, let's say you give that couple of days and it's just not getting better, what do you do next? Like when do you kind of make that decision?
Well, so I was talking to my wife and stuff, and feeling out like, well, what should I do? Like, should I, so that
your wife's a nurse, so
my wife's a nurse, and
she kind of knows a thing or two about injuries and
so and she, she's very knowledgeable. She's one of the smartest people I know for sure. So I bounced some stuff off for her, and I was like, well, should I go see a chiropractor? Should I go see a physio? Should I go get my back x-ray to make sure I didn't slip a disc? Like, what do I do? She's like, well, if you slipped a disc, you'd be in a lot more pain. And and I was like, I was in a lot of pain. She's like, a lot more. Like
yeah, you think you're in a lot of pain.
Yeah, she's
Have
like,
you ever birthed a child?
Yeah, she's gonna be like, I've birthed three children. I know what pain is. And I'm like, true.
You don't know what pain is, son.
Yeah, you don't know what pain is. Yeah. So it got to me thinking, like, when do you call in, the big guns, right? Like, when should I like, of course, that my back always gives me fits every once in a while. Like sometimes it gets tight, and that's just kind of my weak point. That's the point that everybody has, like, oh, my left knee, when it starts hurting, that means I'm training a little too much. And that's me with, that's my back. But I've been doing a lot of, I've been doing a lot of gym work. I've been doing a lot of core work. I've been doing a lot of, trying to stabilize the muscles around my, like, lower lumbar and my back and stuff. So, like, my back has been feeling great, and then I kind of took it for granted, and probably definitely did a 6-hour or 5-hour TT bike ride was probably a little too much.
Sure.
I would say that's the thing. And then throwing heavy truck tires around, like,
that'll do
without warming up is definitely, not a good thing. So that's what brought us to the, when do you call people in? And I think if it's something that you repeatedly have, so like for me, like my back, repeatedly, as soon as the inflammation's gone and I feel good enough, I'll probably go and see a chiropractor to make sure that my hips and lower back and all that kind of stuff is aligned. I guess is the best way to describe it. And then if that doesn't get me relief or something like that, then I'll probably go to a physio and see if there's some, or a sports, what are they called? The sports therapist type thing, where they show you different movements to basically target that area and strengthen that area. Maybe I have like tight hamstrings or something like that, and they're like, hey, do these hamstring stretches and these will loosen up your back and that stuff. Like, so then you go to an expert that looks at how you move and how you function, and all the biomechanics, and then you're like, okay, here's a prescriptive, stretches, workouts, all the physical therapists. There we go. Yeah. That's what we were looking at. So like somebody who experts in how your body moves, in the sports world, so that you can mitigate this thing. And like I say, like if it's a one-time thing, like, oh man, my calf, I ran today and I don't know what happened. It's just really tight and really sore, and it, has a fit. If it was a one-time thing, I'd be like, I'll just let this happen. Like maybe I just been running weird, or I need new shoes or some kind of thing. But if it's something that continually happens, you should definitely go and see some kind of sports, medicine or sports doc, or your regular doctor, anybody, an expert other than, me going on WebMD trying to figure out how to diagnose a herniated disc or something like that.
You know how Dr. Google is, you go in there, you put in that you got lower back pain and it tells you got brain cancer. And you're like, wow,
well, that's what it said. It said either I'm pregnant or I have cancer. And I was like, well, that sucks.
I don't know how I'm going to explain this one to my wife.
Yeah, I didn't know. I was like, all right, well, cool.
Well,
maybe
So it's okay. Yeah. So I think I would tell you too, like, we've just over the years, I've had situations where, we've talked about some of the rides in last year or so where I'll be out riding and I've got like a pain in my left knee, and I'm like, my knee, knock on wood, I've never had issues with my knees, and I hope I never do, but I've been very fortunate, never had any major issues with my knees. And so for me to get knee pain, it's just like, well, that's weird, and so it would just shoot, and I would feel this shooting pain through my knee. And I know it's not a bike fit issue, because bike fit's good, and I'm like, well, gosh, what the heck? But then I noticed it would start in the hamstring. It would kind of shoot its way down, not quickly, but just kind of work its way down into the knee. And I'm like, well, what the heck? And the next thing you know, it's like, when we're out running, I would get this pain in the glute. It's all on the left side. And so you just start to look for these trends and like, well, what could be causing this? So I'm the type of person, I will go out and do my own research on things. I do not do Dr. Google though. I try not to do that.
WebMD, baby.
WebMD. Yeah. I mean, it's a good start. It's a good starting point, but like, I like to, especially like physios that have YouTube pages or have their own pages, like there's a lot of really good information. There's also a lot of really bad information out there too, but there is a lot of good information, and you just kind of have to sift through it on your own. And it wasn't a situation that was causing me to totally shut down my training. So it's like, well, I don't think I was in that injured camp quite yet, but I was definitely hurting. And so what I found out though was that there's, that sort of that connective tissue between the hamstring and the glute. And that can be caused by a couple of things. It could be like uh, it could be muscle imbalances, or it could be like a weak glutes, and things like that. So I started implementing more and more, core training and targeting on those specific areas with some of the movements that were recommended. And then also, I think I've told everybody under the sun about this, but there is a spiky ball that is sold on Amazon, and I'm sure it's sold elsewhere, but on Amazon, and it's got these nubs that it's all around the ball, but these nubs that are probably, half inch deep on, they're like this, and they have a rounded pointy edge on them. Man, you get that in there and get that targeted spot, and you can just feel the blood flow hit, get through the area that's been hurting. It's like instant relief. So then I started working on, okay, I got strength training, I got a little bit of core training. I work on the rolling with that ball in there. And I've, again, knock on wood, I've had zero issue with that in several months now. And I think a lot of it is because I did have muscle imbalances. I did have some weakness areas. And like you said, the pain in one area doesn't mean that's where the problem is. A lot of times it can be upstream from that. It could be in the glutes. It could be in the back. It could be because you have a weakness in there somewhere. And that's where the people that really know it can help you the most. And while I didn't go to a physio, I did try to use as many resources as I could to try to identify, hey, is this a situation that I can fix, or is it something I got to go in and get, some kind of a procedure done, which thank goodness it wasn't that. So, but it's true. There's so much information out there that's available, and it kind of comes back to common sense, and don't just assume that, it's the worst. Like, oh my gosh, my knee hurts, I probably need knee surgery. Like, slow down. Like, let's see if somebody can help you out with it first. And it's good to go. We saw this with a couple of folks that we know. Go to a doctor who understands the sport that you're experiencing the pain in, because you will get a lot of doctors that they don't really know, because they don't train. That's not what they do. And like, well, yeah, we need to send you to a knee specialist. And next thing you know, you definitely have swollen, tendons or ligaments in the knee. And we should probably go in there and scope it out. It's like, whoa. Let's go try a non-invasive path. See if that's an option before we go down that. So I've seen it where people just sort of get channeled into the process, if you will, instead of, hey, let's go talk to somebody who is an expert in this area and who understands the mechanics associated with, cycling, for example, or running. There's a lot of people out there that know this stuff. So anyway, just some ideas there.
Yeah, that's some great stuff. Like, definitely, like, I do try to, research stuff, because I don't want to go there and just waste somebody's time and just be like, well, my back hurts.
And doctors aren't cheap.
Yeah, and they're not cheap. Like, my super, platinum plan that my wife has doesn't cover, me just going to the doctor going like, hey, my back hurts, make it feel better. Like, I like to go, like, because a doctor, especially if you go to like a sports doctor or something like that, they'll go, after they go like, okay, what's wrong with you while you're here? And then you go, well, my back hurts. And then they go, well, what have you done to like mitigate it? Because they're looking at like, okay, well, has he done any like modalities to lessen his pain, and have they worked? And so then he can just start going down the list of stuff he knows, and he's just comparing, and he's just like, well, have you tried this one thing? And like, oh no, I haven't tried that because I didn't know about it. And then he's like, okay, well, let's try this, or how do you feel about this?
Right.
Because it is really super easy, because a doctor is, one, they're especially these sports docs and the regular docs, is their time is money. And so they're like, well, if he hasn't really done anything, well, do I just put him in the pipeline and get him in there to get some fuses discs together, and just make his back one solid piece? Is that kind of what he's looking for? Like, because they want to do their stuff too. So you gotta do your own research and get yourself settled, at least, like I say, like, because otherwise you're going to end up in the, with unhappy results for sure.
Yeah, exactly. I think, I don't want to make this a debate about the medical industry and all that kind of stuff, but the thing is there are doctors on all ends of the spectrum in terms of they immediately go to the most invasive procedure, and they might be part of a, medical system or something like that, that they have a very specific process about how to mitigate. And then you end up in a surgery situation. And then you got the other end of the spectrum. It's like, well, let's try the ancient herbal process and witchcraft that maybe was done.
Have you heard of
500 years
quartz
ago.
crystals being charged by the moonlight? Like,
Right.
You just leave them on your windowsill and then you let them touch your sore areas, and the next thing you know, you're healed. It's like, all right,
wait a second,
man.
I think that's you're onto something here. But
hydrogen water.
Exactly. Drink some hydrogen water. Yeah. So I do think that, there's some of this where you have to be able to trust the physician that you're seeing and the expert that you're going to. And I've found, at least in my experiences, that the more knowledgeable I can try to make myself about the situation, if I can engage the physician in a way that's like, look, I'm not trying to question what you're telling me. I'm just trying to ask questions because these are questions I have in my head and I don't know what to make of it. Right. So I'm not the expert. So I don't, because I can tell you, I work in the healthcare industry. So I can tell you, I've talked to doctors who, like, one of their worst things is the patient that comes in that thinks they're the expert because they read it on WebMD.
Yeah.
And it's like, then trying to convince them, like, no, this is how it really works. And it's like, they're almost lost in a way. But if you walk in there with an open mind and saying, hey, I've looked into this and these are some of the things I think, and I don't know if it's true or not, but this is what I think.
Yeah, and this is some of the stuff I've tried, and I haven't really gotten anywhere, and it doesn't really. And I don't want to be, addicted to pain pill, or you go down the laundry list of stuff that you don't want to have happen. So then the doctor can better, the professional can better suit your situation, because it's it's just like coaching. Like not everybody wants to qualify for the Olympics. Some people just want to get through the race.
That's right. And that's
survive, and it's okay.
Yeah. And I think it just gives you a way to engage the expert, as you said. I mean, to engage that person, and then as they give you answers back, you should be asking yourself, does this make sense? Because I'm again, in my profession, if I can't get something explained to a third or fifth grade level that makes sense, then it's like, I get a little skeptical quickly. That's just my natural skepticism. So everything can get boiled down to pretty simple explanations. And if it can't, then I just start to ask questions like, well, why is this being made so complicated?
Right.
And so I just think it just turns into a process of does it make sense? Are you on board with the therapy that you're being prescribed? And then go from there. And I think a lot of times, unless you like you were out doing sprints and you feel the pop in the knee, like a lot of these like nagging injuries, I'm not the expert. I'd be willing to bet a good number of those injuries are typically caused by some type of imbalance, some type of improper, warm up or strength training around it. And there's something you can do to mitigate it. 99% of the time, I'd be willing to bet there's something you can do to mitigate. I shouldn't say 99, but a good majority of the time you can mitigate it. So anyway, I think it's definitely a very personal thing, very individual thing, but try to inform yourself the best you can before you walk into those situations. So you're not just subject to, whatever that doctor of the day tells you, or that person of the day. Make sure you do your homework a little bit, find a good expert that understands what you're doing, what you're trying to accomplish, and then, hopefully you can get fixed. So,
yep.
Cool.
So then you've gone to the doctor. They've told you how to correct your imbalances, or they said basically just retire. You're too old. Go home.
Yeah. Hey,
go
old
home.
man, stay out of your truck.
Yeah. Go. Stop working on your truck, old man. What are you doing? Just make your kids lift stuff.
That's right.
But then you're like, all right, well, when do I come back? Well, if it's like, if I just hurt myself and it's, I usually wait a day after I feel like 100%. Mm-hmm. Like when I'm like, all right, I feel good. And then I'm like, all right, well, you get one more day.
Right. Yeah.
So, because usually in that and that next day that I give myself, I'm like, still a little tender back there. So especially when and I am talking about my back. So like, but like maybe it's your knee or whatever. You're like, oh, my knee feels great. I did some yard work, no pain free. And then you're like, all right, well, give it another day.
Yeah.
And then you find out like, the yard work you did kind of inflamed it a little bit, and then you gotta give it another time. So don't be in a rush to come back. It's okay. You'd rather come back at 100% than come back at 65%.
Yeah. Well, I think it's kind of what you're saying is a lot like if let's say you haven't been doing strength workouts for a while and you do that first day of lifting, the next day you're usually like, I'm okay. I'm a little tender, but I'm okay. And then that second day is when Dom sets in. You're like, oh my gosh, I can't
even walk.
Yeah, so that happened to me. I was just telling some folks on our group ride the other day, like I've been really busy with work the last few weeks. I'm full of excuses, but I've been slacking on some of my core workouts. So on Monday I did some Tabata core workouts, and I probably overdid it because on Tuesday I felt fine, but by Wednesday I couldn't hardly move. I mean, my lower abs were killing me. I could hardly walk, and it was like, I probably overdid it. And I think that's what tends to happen if you come back from an injury. Like, even if you only took a couple of days off to let something recover, it could be natural to say, oh, I only took 2 days off. I'll just go right back in. My plan says I should do a VO2 max workout or anaerobic sprints. I guess I should just go in and do it. It's like probably not the best thing to do. You might think about that before you just go out and start doing anaerobic sprints after an injury.
Yeah, no. So usually what I do is if it's not a scheduled off day and somebody takes it off and they were like, well, my legs, my knee was hurting, or, my shoulder hurts a little bit. And then I go, okay. And then I just start dialing back all their training, because I'm like, nope, if we're taking a day off because we feel it, then we're having a little bit too much stress, and whether that be like they have work stress that impacted their training stress, because it's all stress. Like your body doesn't know the difference between, your high powered lawyer, lifestyle versus your, super fast crit ride on the weekend. Like it has no idea what the heck the difference is. All it knows is that we're stressed out, and this week was a little too much. So then the best thing you can do is you come back from that injury, and then you just ease back into it.
That's right.
And depending on how long you took off, maybe the difference between a, 1 or 2 ease back in to 2 or 3 weeks easing back in, or if you had major surgery and a whole like knee replacement or something like that, you're going to take months to come back.
Right.
It's all going to just start, easy.
Yeah. I think, and I know we talked about this in an episode quite a while back now, but it's very similar to illness. If you were sick and you had to take a week or 2 off because of illness, same thing if you're injured, and injury might mean you have to focus on a specific a targeted area, but if you're taking a week or 2 off because you've been sore, and you maybe, or even if you just backed your workouts down to maybe, what, I'm only going to do like my endurance workouts, I'm going to cut them down to, lesser intensity and lower time. But I need to keep spinning, or I need to keep doing something. When you are ready to start working your way back, if it's been a couple of weeks, then, take a couple of weeks to do some good solid base workouts. And then now if you've got an event coming up and you're panicked over that, well, guess what? It sucks when you get hurt. Injuries, they'll never happen at a good time, and it's terrible. But if you want to try to prevent that re-injury, then make sure you do some very good base workouts for a week or 2. Try to do it equal to the amount of time you took off. Try to make sure you do some base workouts before you start adding that intensity back into it. I think that's one of the things. You're like, oh, I only took a week off, or I only took 2 weeks off. Well, yeah, but your body still needs to adapt to come back, and give your body a chance to don't throw it right into the pain and suffering. Let it have a chance to heal.
Yeah, because you went from being 100% in, then you got sick or you're injured, and now you're 100% off, and so then that takes time. Like your body, depending, especially if it's more than a couple of days that you're out of it, your body is going to be repairing itself and switching modes and getting your fitness to a different level. And so you have to come back, sometimes you take a week off. It may take you 2 weeks to come back.
Yeah.
Just because of the nature of, when you took off and how much fatigue and all that stuff that you have to shed. So, just the best thing I tell my athletes is that after you do a couple workouts and you start, they've always asked me, you can never start too easy. They've always asked me about the third or fourth day after coming back. They're like, hey, can we add a little bit more in? Or, you know what, this feels just about right. This is where I needed to be. I thought I was going to, I thought I needed to do that VO2 max anaerobic sprint workout, but I don't think I was ready for that. 9 times out of 10, I very rarely have somebody tell me that this feels a little too easy.
Right.
They always usually say I'm really happy we started slow.
Yeah, exactly.
And then kind of dialed it, and you're just kind of dialing it up as you complete workouts and you be consistent. That's a win in your head. That's a win in your fitness, and you're just building on these little wins.
That's
and you're winning. And then it's, because if you come back and you do that anaerobic sprint workout and you let's say you don't get injured, but it's so hard because your body's not ready for it, then you got to take another 2 days off or 3 days off. How many times have we seen athletes that come back and they're like, they've taken 2 weeks off because they were injured. They come back, they do a 7-minute mile run, and they're only a 10-minute mile runner, and they just rail it, and then you don't see them again for 4 days, and then they come back and do a bike workout, and they basically hold their race pace effort at 170 beats a minute, and it's just railing the whole time. Then you don't see them for 6 days. It's just if they would have just come back slowly from that 2 week off, they would have been in a better place. And a lot of times you just see them just I got to cram it. I got to cram all this stuff in, and I got to get back to where I was. And it's that person that you were is gone. Mm-hmm. It's just the person that you are right now.
That's right.
And we have to build up from there. We can't go back to who you were because you got sick or you got injured or, something happened. So you just have to be patient with that.
Well, and trust yourself that you can actually get stronger if you just stay patient with it, like you said. And, it's just like the training that you've been doing before you got injured. Consistency is what got you where you were. It's never the peaks of, oh my gosh, I did 2 hard workouts this week and nothing else because I was too sore. I don't know many people that are super fit with that type of program. And if they're out there, I'd love to know what that program is. Cause if I can only have to work out 2 days a week to be super fit, that'd be awesome. I just don't think it exists. So,
yeah, I was reading this case study, for coaching and stuff. And, I don't know, maybe you guys have heard of him as Gustav Iden and Christian Blumenfeld. They're won gold medals at, triathlon and, I know that name. Tadej Pogačar, maybe you've heard of him before. These guys, they focus, the one thing that their coaches make them focus on more than anything is the consistency of the workouts, just working out. So if you have an easy Tuesday, is that your easy ride? Then guess what? It doesn't matter if it's an hour-long ride, easy, or a 6-hour ride, easy. As long as you continue to do that week in, week out, will make the difference. It doesn't even matter if you reduce the volume, but you still have that same kind of schedule of consistency. Let's say you're a person that can only work out, 4 times a week. If you consistently do that 4 times a week workout and you're, doing all the things, even if you get injured, you take your time off, but then you just come back at an easier pace, and that consistency, you will get further than if you try to do, I see people trying to do this. They, and it's a big thing on the internet of, they'll do these, what I do in a day, a training day with Sam Long, or a training day with Lionel Sanders, or a training day with, Matthew Vanderpool. Yep. And it's they do their one workout, and of course it's kind of fluffed a little, where they're like, oh, I get up at 5 a.m. and then I go for, a 17-mile run. Yeah. It's like, you don't do that every day.
Right.
You're just doing it on your peak day, on your peak week. Exactly. So they're showing you the best sides of themselves, and like people are, but then then you have us amateurs going like, oh, if the pro's doing that, then I need to do, I need to do that, and it's like we're not those guys.
Well, and if you want to be those guys, then work yourself up to it the same way that they did. You know, there's no shortcuts to get there. You don't just crawl out of bed and start doing 17 hours a day of workouts. It's just not how it works. So.
Yeah, and it's just like, and exactly to your point, it's just like, but these guys consistently work out every day. For pros, they work out almost every day without
40-hour week gig.
Yeah, and so they're consistently working out all the time.
Yeah,
they're not taking 2 weeks off to go to Italy or something like that, and then then they'll come back and work, do workouts for a month, and then they're taking 2 weeks off to go do something else. No, it's very like they're very consistent about what they do.
Yeah, or have to go on a week-long business trip somewhere or something like that. Like that doesn't happen. Their business is the workout. So.
Yeah. So like I said, the best thing you can do is especially to prevent injury and to be a better athlete is just increase your consistency.
Yeah.
Is just continue to be consistent. And, when you have these little niggles of pain or you do get injured, it's a little bit easier to diagnose. Oh, you know what? You probably shouldn't have rode that long ride. That was probably the start of weakening my lower back. And then I basically put the nail in the coffin by doing car work. The two of them in isolation would have probably would have been okay. But doing them so close together that it basically just ruined me.
It's interesting because I rode part of that ride with you guys on Sunday, and I got done with the ride. I knew it was well. First of all, I've been a little bit inconsistent myself over the last 4 weeks or so with between work and just whatever life happens. Also, we're kind of in that lull of the season that we talked about, where it's like my focus right now is we've got two events left, and we've got kind of the marathon or the half marathon training season coming up. So I'm kind of on that downward side right now. I'm kind of letting my body just do some recovery, which I made that comment the other day. I'm like, man, I feel like, even though I haven't been consistent, I feel really good on the bike. Like everything's I know I don't have the top end I did a month or so ago, but I feel pretty good. So we got done with that. I did 2.5 hours with you guys. I didn't do 5. I did 2.5. Got done with that ride, and I felt like I knew it was the right intensity and the right duration because I felt really good after the ride, and I did not feel broken down. I did not feel like I was worn out. In fact, I had the rest of the day I was doing stuff around the house. In fact, you know what? I worked on a car, and I did not hurt my back. and so, what's really funny about that is like I felt great. Like I knew that was the right workout for that day, which it was also what was on the plan. So when I heard I heard on Monday or Tuesday, whatever it was, I was like, that really sucks because I'm sure it was 5 hours of riding that did it to you.
Yeah, and if I would have just chose to, rest on Monday, if I would have took Monday as my normal rest day, like consistently, I probably would have been okay, but I did not.
So real quick, I think we talked a lot about sort of that short-term side of things, and we know a couple people that are coming back from different types of injuries, but have been out for long-term, for months, and had surgeries, and so we got at least 2 people in our circle that are in that situation, and they're trying to come back. One I think is actively working with the physio and still doing the rehab, which is really just that initial phase of the comeback, right? The rehab is not really you're not building your fitness off rehab. You're reestablishing your motor and your muscle capabilities and range of motion and base strength on just daily function. But then we got another person who's coming back from a surgery that is able to get back into workouts. So you kind of got different ends of that. But after such a long break, it can be really intimidating because in your mind, you're like you said earlier, like I just want to be back to the person I was before. And so how many times have you seen people that they've been out for, let's just say it's been 3 months, just for the sake of, because 3 months is enough time that your fitness has nosedived.
Yep.
If you do nothing at all, your fitness will jump off a cliff for that 90 days. and you're effectively back at ground zero. Now, it doesn't mean it can't come back quickly. It just means that you're starting over. I mean, you are on a fresh slate, which is okay. That's not a bad thing. Sometimes people need that, but it can be really intimidating because that person 3 months ago, maybe your FTP was 150 watts, for whatever reason, and now you're coming back and you try to jump in at 150 watts like that. Guess what? You are going to be in a world of hurt. And so it can be really intimidating on where do you start and what do you do? And so maybe what are some tips that we can come up with that can help some people if you're coming back from that? Like, where do you jump in?
Yeah, my thing is usually what I do is, especially when I've taken, I've taken a couple months off the bike, just to, get my head back to it and stuff like that. But the best thing I could say is, you just come back and you go with the mind frame of, what is the goal of the ride, and the goal is to just ride your bike and it should feel easy. Yeah. And that's all you're doing for the first, I don't know, month or so. You're just like, is this bike ride feel hard? If it feels hard, then I'm probably doing too much.
Right.
I want it should feel easy. Like I'm just kind of pedaling around and I'm just kind of reestablishing the love for the bike. Mm-hmm. I'm not out here to, go to the super fast group ride and try to ride with it. Yeah, care. Because, when you're just starting back, like, that you can't pile on all this, the fitness. And I've seen it too, where people are like, well, I used to ride 10 hours a week and they're coming back from 0 to going back to like 8 or 9 hours a week. And it's just, you just can't pile that on. You just have to start out with, you start the volume very small, you start the intensity very low, and you just like I say, you just get those, you need to make your mind focus on the little wins.
Right.
And that's what you're trying to do every single time. You're just like, okay, I'm going to go a little bit further and I'm going to ride easy. So I get that win. Once I get the win, then I can do it again and I can do it again and eventually you're just going that out. So after you've done that enough and you've built up some of that, I would say the best thing you could probably do, and especially if you're coming back from a long time off, yeah, I would say like doing some kind of metabolic testing is good. Like if you do a lactate test or something like that, you don't have to go to threshold, and you could just tell you tell the person who's giving you the test. You can try to go to threshold if you feel up to it, but if you just want to go and get to that first metabolic efficiency point, like whoever's administering the test would know exactly where that is, and we see it in the data. And so you could just be like, all right, well now I'm going to train at that point, and you don't have to go to threshold. It's just like zone 2 and below. Now you know exactly where your zone 2 is.
Right.
And you just start training that, and you just build up your volume from there.
Yeah.
And let's say that's, you do that over a course of like, let's say you just do that from October to, I don't know, January.
Sure.
And that's just straight on full base training. Like that's what we would be doing anyways.
Yeah.
If we weren't injured, is training that full on base and just getting that bigger. Then then you have enough fitness and you've built up the time at that you could actually go and complete a full on FTP test or ramp test or something like that. That's how I would approach it. Well, that's how I would tell one of my athlete to approach it, because that's just the safest way to basic. Because if you come back from injury and then you're 3 months out and you're just like, all right, I'm gonna put you on to a FTP test.
Yeah.
And you used to be 150 watts and now you can't even turn it over at 100. Like that doesn't do anything for anybody other than just demoralize them. Like nobody wants to see that.
And that's what happens. I mean, people get in their head and they start comparing numbers and the metrics of what it is now versus what it used to be. And then it's like, I'll never be as good as I used to be. It's like, just stop. Like, to your point, establish your base. Get back.
Well, most people don't even know what that number is, their metabolic efficiency number. So you get to test and you get to find out something new about yourself. Sure. And then you can see it starts to go up.
Yeah.
But it's at a relatively easy pace.
Yeah.
That you can handle.
That's right.
Now you're not going to go out and ride 10 hours at it, but eventually you probably could. But you can start to see that metabolic efficiency point move up and up and up, and that's just as good as seeing your FTP go up and up and up, which it's probably doing. But nobody if you don't want to be like at 80, like, oh, my FTP is 80 watts. It's like, oh, that's horrible. Like I feel like such a schmuck, like everybody else.
It's like, who cares? The number, nobody cares. Doesn't mean anything. The number's the number, and I think what you find out is if you come back and you sort of say ease back into it, but you reestablish the base and you truly reestablish the base, your fitness will come back extremely quickly. It's because your body didn't just totally forget. You just got to kickstart it and let it remember what it's like to be in this mode, and let the engine fire up. And then once it does, you're going to find that strength, everything comes back pretty quickly. I mean, not to try to compare to pros, but you look at some of the pro injuries that happened this year and guys that were laid up in the hospital for a few weeks, and like, yes, they dedicate their lives to training, but when they came back, I mean, they were back to almost peak fitness within a few months.
Well, the thing is it's so easy to train that top end. It's like 4 to 6 weeks, and you're going to be the fastest top end you can be. But if you don't have a good base to train that top end, it's not going to be as high, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think the other thing is shift the focus of the workouts, because it is such a light intensity and it's so easy. Shift the focus of the workout to a form drill, and really use this as an opportunity, because you're going to find out you can be faster if you're more efficient. And so if you're using less power to get the same speed, because you figured out how to turn the pedals over in more of a full circle versus pedaling in squares, then you know what, you're going to be a faster athlete because of it. You're going to use this as an opportunity to become a more efficient cyclist, for example. Or, hey, I'm going to focus this run workout on turnover rate. I'm going to run at a lighter intensity, but I'm going to focus on the cadence, or I'm going to focus on just my run form, or my body posture and my position of how I run. Like, this is a perfect time to do it, because the intensity is low, and it's a good chance to focus on something other than, oh my gosh, I got to put all this effort out to make the workout happen. No, I'm going to focus on the form side of it, keep the intensity low, build my base back up. And then when I do start putting the intensity in, I've enforced such good habits in my form that intensity comes along pretty easily, actually. And you find out, oh my gosh, I had more strength than I ever knew I had. So
I mean, that's what I do in swimming is, when I learn that, something is wrong in my form, I do very slow swim sets where I'm just working on the drill, and then I reinforce it through the thing through actual swimming, and then go back to the drill, go back. It's a very slow process, but in the end, in your swim times, you can't compare your swim times. Then you're like, well, yeah, I'm going to be slower because I'm learning a new skill. Right. Eventually, as the skill takes shape and it becomes more of what I can do at my, my regular effort, I'm going to be faster. And that's exactly what what we're saying here is that you work on your form, you work on cornering, or you work on making, like, if you're on gravel, making sure you're descending and controlled. That will make you faster.
Yeah, exactly.
Not just raising your FTP.
That's right.
Like, if you can hold and pedal smoother and have better power transfer on your bike and descend better, corner better, heck, you can climb worse and still be faster.
Yeah. That's right.
Like, there's so many other things that you can work on as a cyclist or a triathlete that, this, you can look at this coming back from injury as kind of like a blessing for you to fix all the mistakes that you've learned through your, career.
That's
and
right.
So,
it's a chance to clean
bad
things
habits.
up. Yeah. Clean things up. So, well, this has been good. I hope that some folks have taken a few tips out of this. I mean, injuries suck. There's no other way around it, but like you said, I mean, you got to find the positive in it and use it as a chance to come back stronger. So
always find the positive, because, and I like it. Like I say too, like, even when I get injured, I'm just like, well, this is my body telling me that I've put on too much. So I need to take a look, especially while I was laying there in bed with the heating pad on my back I was looking at, like, okay, well, what did I do to cause this?
Right.
It wasn't just a one-off thing, because I lift heavy stuff.
Yeah.
I've worked on cars all my life. Like I've done all this stuff. Like it's something else is added to the stress and it's not just a one-off thing. Yeah. So, but yeah.
Good stuff, man.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have anything else. I think that was pretty good. Definitely, if anybody out there has any tips about coming back from injury, I mean, we're not the only ones. I'm sure everybody has, some stories about coming back. We'd love to hear about it. Just email us at SufferSooner@gmail.com. All right, and we'll talk to you later.
Yep.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Please, if you like what we are doing here, leave a like, rate us, comment, subscribe, and share with your friends. It really helps us grow and finds us more SufferSooner squad mates. And remember, when the finish line feels impossibly far away, we don't give up, we push harder, we dig deeper, and we find solace in the knowledge that our suffering is temporary and our resilience is forever.